do yourself a favor and stop. Stop wasting your money on expensive gimbals. And listen, we all fall into these traps. We're watching a product launch video on the latest and greatest gimbal. And of course, in that promo, they're running through an amazing set and a terrific action sequence. They're giving us a glimpse into all of the possibilities. I mean, just imagine what we could do if we had a tool like that in our filmmaking kit. And at that point, we begin to get really excited and we're eager to find out how much does this cost and what happens next. We begin to see video after video or a bunch of videos pop up at the same time in our YouTube feed. Wait, what? My favorite YouTubers dig this product too? That's all the justification I needed so I can pull the trigger on this new, at this point, just fill in the blank. Fill in the blank with whatever brand or product you found yourself instantly wanting or needing. Please, please, take my money. And you know what? Yeah, screw it. I'm okay with overnight shipping. So this is why I say, stop wasting your money on expensive gimbals. This video is for you, all of you solo operators or 2 to 3 man production crews, because the bottom line is that we are running a business. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carlos, and I own a media production company based out of the Midwest. If you want to see more than just gear reviews, this is the channel for you. We do talk about gear because the bottom line is that we are all gearheads. But we also try to, in every single video, bring some value to you as a content creator, as a filmmaker, as a business owner, or as a young professional. If that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe and make sure that you ring that bell so that you're notified every time we upload a new video. So now, let's take half a step back. On most of our productions, most of us, we don't have a budget for a stuntman or two. In most productions, we don't generally rent out sound stages where we can rig up lights, track sequences, have on set visual effects artists, use cranes, dollies to help with our camera movement. And I can honestly say that I have never used a cable cam, and a cable cam has never been used on any production that I've been a part of. In fact, I am incredibly lucky when I get to have a 5-person production crew on my corporate video shoots. In most of my YouTube productions, like I am today, I do them all by myself. So real quick, let's do story time. I personally have owned a Movi Pro, a DJI Ronin, a Ronin M, the Shiyun Crane version 2, and others. I have friends who are kind of in the same spot where they have big, heavy, expensive gimbals all sitting in a storage closet. And the fact is that that is a lot of wasted money. So my suggestion to you is actually really simple. You should take a look at which camera system you own and actually make money from today. So that's step 1. Step 2, what are the types of shots that you could pull off on your own with your own size crew that would be easier if you had a gimbal? Step number 3, or question number 3 that you need to ask yourself is, how long are your typical types of productions? In other words, are you actually shooting with your gimbal nonstop for 4 hours straight on a typical project? And once you're able to answer those types of questions for yourself, you now have a baseline that very clearly identifies what your production calls for or needs, and then allows you to make a decision as to which gimbal is going to allow you to save time, save money, or pull out that shot that you absolutely need in your production. For me personally today, the FeiyuTech AK2000 checks off all of those boxes. every requirement that I could possibly have. But it's not all roses, right? Like with any product, there's no such thing as a perfect product that fits into every single scenario for every single person. So before I share why it is that the FeiyuTech AK2000 fits into my type of productions, let me share with you what it is that I personally don't like about that gimbal. The list is actually really short. I personally do not like, because I'm not used to it yet, how it is that I would transition from the normal gimbal operation to the inverted gimbal operation. That transition into inverted just feels flat out awkward to me. I'm sure that eventually I'm going to get used to it. But for me, again, today, after 4 weeks of use, it still trips me up. And really, that's kind of it. Every other challenge that I had with the gimbal has been worked out, and as it turns out, happened to be user error. And just so that I am crystal clear about why it is that this gimbal is the gimbal that fits my productions, is that I only own one camera that I actually want or am willing on flying on a gimbal. And that would be the Canon EOS R. And because I use the Canon EOS R, I don't really care that I don't have the ability to shift left or right the actual camera base plate on the gimbal when I'm, balancing it. I will say this, the AK2000 has really strong motors. It is actually able to balance my 1DX Mark II. The real challenge is that while it can keep it steady, if I begin to do some extreme pans, the motors are then not able to handle that camera because it's kind of a heavy or top-heavy top camera. But it is strong enough to hold it steady if I'm not too aggressive with the movements. The other thing, of course, is that because it is a much taller camera, if I was to go into like flashlight mode, it would actually hit the back of the gimbal. So it is not made for that camera, but I did want to see just how strong those motors were and why it is that I even gave it a shot. So here's everything that I do like about the FeiyuTech AK2000. If I want to go into inverted mode, once I get the camera orientation properly, it just works. If I need the gimbal to help me get a more dynamic time lapse for a client, I set up the parameters right on the gimbal because it's got a little touchscreen. I don't need to use an app. I don't need to do anything else. I hit record, come back a couple hours later, and the gimbal did all of the heavy lifting for me. It just works. If I need to track a subject quickly, it is highly responsive, and in my opinion, much better than other gimbals that I've used in the past, including the Ronin. If I have to operate the gimbal with just one hand, it is light enough for me to use without stressing out my shoulders. If I need to run behind someone and track them, the gimbal does all of the work for me, and again, I can go much longer because it is such a light setup. If for some reason I need to hand off the gimbal to someone who has never used a gimbal before, they can operate the gimbal and get usable footage right out of it. So again, it just works. And if I need to make a YouTube review video that shows off a feature that I may never use, well, here it is. So I say, do not get caught up in the hype. The gimbal you need may not be the gimbal you thought you needed. And what that means is that you may end up with a lighter gimbal that has all the features you need, and more importantly, you will keep your hard-earned cash in your pocket. And maybe, just maybe, that right gimbal is the FeiyuTech AK2000, just like it is for me. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to let me know. Consider subscribing for more filmmaking tech videos. Until next time, I'm Carlos with Media on Cue. Take care.